Hello there. Welcome to the Kwedu Report. My name is Harry. Pope Leo XIV apologizes for the Catholic Church's role in legitimizing slavery. In Sydney, a man has been charged after allegedly pointing a gun at Sydney train passengers. In Africa, Sierra Leone government has signed a controversial migrant deportation deal with the US government. Staying in Africa, Sudan's war has left thousands missing, with many believed to be buried in unmarked graves. Coming back to Australia, Reuters report that Australian activists have returned home on Monday after Gaza Flotilla Incident and allege Israeli forces abuse. And going back to Africa, Ebola epidemic threatens 10 African countries in addition to DRC and Uganda. Once again, thank you very much for joining us on today's edition of the Kwedu Report. And now, a look at these stories and others in detail. Reports from Rome are that Pope Leo XIV on Monday apologized for the Holy See's own role in legitimizing slavery, saying the Church must condemn new forms of trafficking tied to artificial intelligence, and asked for pardon for centuries of silence from the Catholic Church. Now, on Monday, Pope Leo XIV released his first encyclical Magnifica Humanitas, issuing a historic apology for the Vatican's role in legitimizing slavery and failing to condemn it for centuries. A series of 15th century Vatican directives, including the Papal Bull Dam Diversas, issued in 1452, authorized Portuguese sovereigns to invade, conquer, fight, and subjugate non-Christians and reduce them to perpetual slavery. Now, Leo, who was born in the US, whose family history includes both enslaved people and slaveholders, according to genealogical research, has connected the transatlantic slave trade to modern forms of slavery, fueled by unregulated labor for AI chips. Now, by this action, Leo has responded to decades of calls by Black American Catholics, activists, and scholars for the Holy See to atone for its colonial-era role. This is the first time a pope has publicly acknowledged the Vatican's role or direct involvement in authorizing subjugation. Pope said, "This constitutes a wound in Christian memory," referring to slavery, warning that the Catholic Church must condemn modern trafficking to avoid needing future pardons, emphasizing the need for respect for human dignity as essential to Christian faith. Now, coming back to Australia, Reuters news agency report that Australian activists have returned home on Monday after the Gaza Flotilla Incident and allege Israeli forces abuse. Now, reports by Stefika Bikesh and Cordelia Hesu from Reuters are that Australian activists detained by Israel while on a flotilla attempting to deliver aid to Gaza have returned home, with organizers alleging abuse, sexual assault, and beatings that left some detainees in hospital. Meanwhile, Israeli prison authorities have denied the allegations, which Reuters could not independently verify. 11 Australians were among 430 volunteers on 50 boats intercepted in international waters last week by Israeli forces, aiming to stop the flotilla delivering aid supplies to the Gaza Strip. The flotilla included people from 40 countries. Now, Juliette Lamont, an Australian activist and documentary filmmaker who was among the detainees, told Reuters on Monday she was dragged, sexually assaulted, and beaten when she was detained. Another Australian activist, Sam Waripa Watson, told Reuters that He sustained a fractured rib along with bruises and cuts across his body. Watson also said he had witnessed activists being tasered and shot with rubber bullets, with stun grenades thrown at them. And now moving on to our next story, we go back to Africa, where the Sudan war has left thousands of people missing, with the International Committee of the Red Cross saying many are believed to be buried in unmarked graves. The International Committee of the Red Cross further added that 8,000 missing cases are linked to the current war, and more than 80,000 family calls were facilitated in early 2026. The International Committee of the Red Cross also urged all parties in Sudan to ensure safe humanitarian access, as documented missing persons has surpassed roughly 11,000, representing a more than 40% increase in the past year. Widespread displacement of 4 million people and collapsed telecommunications networks have severed family ties across Sudan, making contact impossible for separated families. In early 2026, the ICRC facilitated more than 80,000 phone calls to try and reconnect the families. The International Committee of the Red Cross has searched hospital morgues in Khartoum for missing people, with families trying to find their loved ones, which has been very, very difficult. Quite a dire situation there in Sudan caused by the conflict. Forensic experts say they faced constraints, severe constraints, as DNA testing labs have also been destroyed, with authorities in Khartoum stating that about 30,000 relocated bodies from makeshift graves, making about 10% people remaining unidentified. International Committee of the Red Cross spokesperson has said the organization remains in dialogue with all conflict parties, including the Sudan Founding Alliance TASI's government, arguing neutral aid organizations must operate without obstruction under international humanitarian law. Staying in Africa, in East Africa, the Ebola epidemic threatens 10 African countries in addition to DRC and Uganda. The Ebola outbreak has caused about 867 suspected cases and 204 deaths, while Uganda has reported 5 confirmed cases linked to cross-border transmission. The DRC has recorded 867 suspected Ebola cases and 204 deaths, although the World Health Organization warns the actual toll is likely higher because the outbreak went unnoticed for weeks. Meanwhile, containing the virus has proved difficult because of the rare Bundibugyo strain, which authorities say lack a vaccine or a specific treatment, and the pathogen was not initially confirmed using conventional tests. Meanwhile, on Friday, residents burned part of the Mongbalu General Reference Hospital in DRC, causing 18 suspected cases to flee. A similar attack also destroyed a treatment center in Rwambara on Thursday, with Richard Lokudu, director of Mongbalu General Reference Hospital, condemning the arson. He said, "We strongly condemn this act as it caused panic among staff and resulted in patient escapes." Meanwhile, the World Health Organization considers this infection or the infection risk very high in Congo and high in the region as well, with 5 confirmed cases reported in neighboring Uganda linked to the current outbreak. And staying in Africa, we go to West Africa in Sierra Leone, where the government has signed a controversial migrant deportation deal with the US government. The Sierra Leone government has agreed to take in hundreds of West Africans deported by the US, with Foreign Minister Timothy Kaba confirming this latest development. The first flight will bring in 25 migrants from 4 West African countries under a deal allowing up to 300 ECOWAS deportees a year. Now, on May 20, the Sierra Leone government was expected to begin accepting US deportees, with the first flight transporting 25 nationals from Senegal, Ghana, Guinea, Nigeria, with Foreign Minister Timothy Kaba confirming this development. Now, under the third country national agreement, Sierra Leone committed to accepting up to 300 ECOWAS citizens annually, capping at 25 deportees per month. Kaba noted that it is part of our bilateral relationship with the US to assist with its immigration policy. Meanwhile, legal experts and rights groups have criticized the transfers, citing concerns over the legal basis and treatment of deportees sent to the countries where they are not nationals or citizens. In the US, Democrats on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee reported in February that the US sent more than $32 million to 5 countries for similar removals. Washington and Freetown has previously clashed over deportation policies in 2017. Meanwhile, it remains unclear whether deportees will be permitted to stay in Sierra Leone, and the White House maintains these transfers are lawful. The State Department did not immediately respond to requests for comment. Now, coming back to Sydney, Australia, a man has been charged after allegedly pointing a gun at Sydney train passengers. A man believed to be 29 years old has been charged after allegedly pointing a gun at people waiting for a train in Sydney. Now, Mohammed Zureika allegedly pointed a pistol at commuters waiting to board a train in Lidcombe at the railway station there before boarding a train to Bankstown on Saturday. Meanwhile, this man has been arrested and he has been charged by the police, who have since also found and confiscated a replica pistol which they took for forensic examination. He was charged with affray and possessing an unauthorized pistol. In addition to that, the man has also been taken to hospital for a mental health assessment. Well, that's all we have for you tonight. Thank you very much for joining us on today's edition of the Kwedu Report. You can follow, like our page on Kwedu Classics on Facebook, on Instagram, on YouTube, on X, and of course, you can also read the latest news about us on our website, news.helcommedia.com. Till we meet again in the next edition of the Kwedu Report, have a good one.